Hi.
I'm Phineas.
I'm Abigail Beatrice.
I'm Lucas.
And this is Antiford on Air!
What are we here to talk about?
Making a character.
Didn't we already cover that?
Not for our world.
Ah.
So here's how to make a character in Antiford.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, what's first on this list?
What's on the list? The magic list of listness.
Where live? Where... So, where to live? So, obviously you've been on our site.
Hopefully.
We have a map.
Yes, we have a map.
It's called the Atlas.
So our world, or doesn't just
It'd be
consist...
somewhere around here?
Yeah, up there.
Doesn't just consist of Antiford. So there are several places that you can live on. Yeah, in.
Antiford is one
5
country that's on one of the
in
continents.
between.
Of the planet Or.
Yes. So, your first decision is, where do you want to live? Do you want to live on Peor? Oh, is this going to be mirrored?
It already is mirrored.
It is mirrored.
Oh, okay. So,
The old country.
Peor or Araz. Araz is the larger one with Antiford on it. Peor is the, cool, small one. So Peor has a few countries on it right now. Ku.
Mm-hmm. The Ku. They're awesome. They're kind of Icelandic.
There's also the Kingdom of Thalo, which doesn't
Thalo.
have much.
Way at the bottom.
Yep.
It's kind of African-y, Dutchy.
Yep.
Interesting place.
Lots of swamps, stilts.
Stilts.
And,
There are a couple others that are being developed that
Yes.
aren't
We don't-
solidified yet.
We don't
Yes.
fill out the entire map because
that's where you come in!
Yeah.
that's not our job.
We
That
have
is-
enough room there for,
Yeah.
9 or so countries?
So if you don't feel like you belong to any country, feel free to make one.
Chat with us.
Yeah. So
But on Araz, there are
Yes.
several countries that you can live in.
there's our home country, Antiford. North, we have Titania, Adelon, and Lilithia, which are the big island. Prush, or the Prussian countries.
Prush Confederacy.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of them.
Mercia, Prushland. So those 3 countries, kind of like where Prush used to be, kind of split up. Then way below that, you have Rusticanote, which is a very interesting country.
Read about it in the
You
encyclopedia.
don't want to live there.
Yeah.
He's complicated.
And then there is Chaos
Yes. Which is a teeny, teeny, tiny
Island.
country.
I would describe it as Romanesque.
Think Plato's Republic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Within each of these countries, there are also different places to live, though.
Yeah.
I know most of the cities haven't been developed yet, but in
Antiford's-
Antiford, they're pretty good. We have Girford, which is the capital city, Argynstrath, which is just south of it. We have Aston Village.
Aston Junction.
I thought the junction was
Well,
simply the train station.
It used to be called Aston Village until it became big because of the train.
Okay,
And
so
they call it Aston Junction.
Aston Junction. Some of us old fuddy-duddies will still call it Aston Village. And
Absolutely.
and then we have Whitehaven.
Yeah.
There are a couple other towns and stuff that...
Small little things.
small towns that others have developed.
Conwell, Sordido.
Conwell is outside of the country,
Yeah.
technically.
Conwell's kind of a Tortuga-esque.
Yes.
Yes.
Suspended over the canyon city.
Yeah.
We've got a few interesting characters who live there.
Yes, we do.
But there's a bunch of little towns between
Yep.
Whitehaven and
There are a lot
Aston
of little
Junction that
towns
no one's described or
between
or talked
Whitehaven
about.
and Aston Junction.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, along the aqueduct / railroad.
Yes. Outside of Antiford, there are a number of them. They're in Titania. There is currently 3. There's Hejm, which is their capital. There's Clippebror, which is a small town just north of the Antifordian border. And there's Fen Bayen, which is on a lake. And then Delarum is the only other of note, which is the capital city of the Prussian Confederacy.
Very cool.
But
Yeah.
I think that's all we really have.
So these are
Yeah.
countries.
Except for Heimskog.
Well, yeah, we
There is
talked
Heimskog.
about Ku, which the capital city is Heimskog. Most of the countries should have a capital city at the very least.
At the moment, yes, except for, I believe, Rusticanote. I don't think we have
Well,
a capital there.
So the deal with
They're
Rusticanote
complicated.
is that they have no capital because they're very 1984-esque. So although there are no cities, there are large buildings denoting prayer centers because, like 1984, their big brother is basically a god-type figure who is a man. And those centers where you go to worship, you worship this person. And there's a lot of backstabbing, cultishness.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to live there.
Not very pleasant.
No.
Again, nowhere is particularly very pleasant.
Hijem is very nice, and I'm sure Heimskog is.
I'm sure Heimskog is actually a rather nice place to
And
live.
Hijem is a fairly decent place to live. And Whitehaven.
Yeah.
Whitehaven is a desert metropolis. It is almost quite literally a haven from the desert.
Yeah, I would say if you're unsure, stick with Antiford.
Yeah.
You can always have your character move,
Yeah.
or you can just retcon your character. That's fine.
And also, if you're a traveling character, like a traveling salesman, or a pirate, or
A naval officer.
naval officer,
Any of those things.
Ambassador.
yeah, ambassadors, you're going to be traveling, so although with ambassadors, obviously you have your home country,
Oh, right,
you
right.
can travel around the world.
Yeah.
Which brings us to jobs. Do you want to be a traveling salesman, a pirate, or a naval officer? Or do you want something more grounded?
We don't mean those land ship captains.
Who drives a land ship?
One man comes to mind. Two come to mind, but
Yeah.
land ships are lame anyway.
We said men.
Oh, you're right. One of them's Prussian, and the other one's half Prussian, so.
So, obviously, like on Earth, there are several jobs that probably need filling. So, obviously, there's sky captains and pirates, but since everybody wants to be those, why not be a little bit different?
We've got a lot of large vehicle captains, and if you want to be one, awesome, totally cool. But there are interesting niches all along the world that we've built, that others build with us, that are yet to be filled. Little shopkeepers here and there, politicians,
Religious leaders.
Mhm. Gosh, what's on this list?
Train workers.
Oh,
We
yeah.
do have the trains
Yeah.
and trolley
Totally
system.
could use conductors, mill workers,
Yep.
that kind of thing.
Mill owners.
Mill owners,
Mm-hmm.
professors, or school teachers.
Oh yeah,
Police officers.
sure.
Yep,
Sure.
the bobbies.
And obviously the job you pick for your character is going to decide some of what they do at the very least.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be the defining character. You can have them do something something mundane, but what they do with their life, because of their mundanity, is even cooler sometimes.
Yes, and what you
Like-
can even do, you don't necessarily have to have these kinds of characters, but
Mild-mannered
helping round out the world by creating these characters. They don't need to be a fully defined character, but doing something like what Kent does,
Sure.
where Kent is a detective, but in his stories he generates different names for police officers and police chiefs and other detectives, and rounds out the world by giving them small backstories.
Or even writing a story about a different character. I've written a story about a bloke who ends up running a tea shop. He's not Lucas, but I wanted to write it. You don't have to necessarily create a separate profile.
Like what I did when I wrote the story about Stephen Copley,
Right.
with he was a naval officer.
So you can write many stories about many people.
And all it does is help round out the world.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, because as Lucas was saying, because your profession might be mundane, it doesn't mean that your character is mundane. Like, a perfect example of that would be a mill worker who steals from the mill or the mill owner to help the poor in the area in the slums.
Mill Robin Hood.
Yeah, Mill Robin Hood sounds awesome. I kind of want to do that. But
Well, I think before all of that, even choosing where you live, who are you?
Yeah.
What's your
are
name?
you a boy or a girl?
What race are you?
Yeah.
And by race, we mean species.
Yeah.
Because
Or,
we do
yeah.
have several different species.
We're talking D&D races here.
Yes.
So we don't have as many.
No.
With reason.
It's easier.
So on Or, there are 3 races. We have the Yeti, the human, and the Vibrani. So we can talk about the Yeti. You know most about it.
Yes, well, I've been writing most about it. They're not like the abominable snowman Yeti. They are think Viking. They are large, strong, wild-haired people. They love combat and feats of strength. They're also very highly regarded boat craftsmen and fishermen. Done?
Yes!
And I've been working on a mythology for them, and it's coming along very well. Yeah. So do you.
Yeah, speaking of mythology, a lot of the cultures that you're going to see in the encyclopedia that we'll talk about, a lot of them should have some sort of folklore or mythology somewhere tucked hidden inside the library if you poke around a bit.
Yeah.
Like Yeti mythology, Ku mythology, etc., etc. Vibrani.
So the Vibrani, which are technically the first in the sort of evolutionary chain on Or,
Since all 3 species
yes.
are related.
They are related, similar to how I want to say
Neanderthal and
more
human.
like that than chimps and gorillas. They're a lot more
Yes.
closely related.
Yes.
To the point that they can interbreed somewhat. So the Vibrani, which are the eldest on the evolutionary chain, are native to Araz. So they're native to the continent that Antiford is on, that humans traveled over to settle.
The Yeti are also native, too.
Yes. So they exist from the Hoganmar mountain range, which separates Antiford and Titania, and below. The most notable thing about the Vibrani are they still have their what's that word?
Tail?
No,
The joint.
no, the
Prehensile.
prehensile. There we go.
Ah.
They still have a prehensile tail, which from the common ancestor, the evolutionary chain on Or came from monkeys instead of apes, so they still have a prehensile tail. The other noticeable feature about Vibrani versus the Yeti or humans are they exist in a blaze of skin colors. So I'm not talking about like from black all the way to white. I'm talking about red, green, blue, orange, yellow, any sort of color that you purple, any sort of color
it's
you
a
want.
predisposition.
Yes. So the way that Vibrani culture is that they partake in a ritualistic feasting that is based on their specific tribe, which dates far before humans ever came to Araz. But so the plant matter that they ritualistic feast on changes the pigmentation of their skin. And as such, if they stop partaking in that feast, their skin color actually fades into a more tannish, like maybe slightly tinged. So, like a yellow Vibrani who doesn't feast anymore might look a little bit sickly, but more like human colored. or a red might seem a little flush, like a little pinkish, but they're more human colored. So if you don't want to wear like a suit and be all like red or blue or green or whatever, yeah, you don't have to. But that being said, their culture is very different than humans. Most of them are matriarchal by their... So most of them are matriarchal, which means that they're led by a couple of alpha females, which are marked because they have an extra joint, so they're much taller. And then they have their beta females, and then they have their males. Males being at the bottom, generally they don't have decisions, or, they do child rearing, basket weaving, sort of things. Which actually is dependent on the tribe. I know, like, the purple tribe, genders are more equal.
It's same with the Nakala.
Same with the Nakala, which are technically not Vibrani, but read the encyclopedia.
Yeah. Encyclopedia is your friend.
So there's a lot of really cool costuming stuff, because all the tribes are sort of a little bit different.
And they all have varying differences in use of technology.
Yes.
So again, it will be in the encyclopedia.
Yeah.
So. And then there are humans.
Humans.
They're standard issue, normal human being.
All right, that sounds good.
Yeah.
You should know what a human being is. But are there any differences from what you would typically think of a human as?
I wouldn't say so, except you might have somebody who's eighth Nakalo or half Yeti on his mother's side. Like, you could have some interesting things like that.
Yep.
But
but how about, since we have these other races that are based on other, on what you would typically think of as human cultures, what about human cultures that have those? If somebody wants to be a human Viking steampunk character.
I mean, that's all up with, mostly, that's up to the country that they pick. So you could be from Lilithia and living in Antiford. So you'd be this kind of hot weather Viking, very grumpy about where you are, if you wanted to, right?
Yeah. So just because and I only bring that because I have heard some complaints that, since the Yeti are based on the Norse, that means there are no human Norse. So if we want to be Norse, it has to be Yeti. Yeah. And that's not true.
That's like saying there's no humans in Titania.
But there are humans in Titania.
Right.
There are humans in Lilithia and Avalon.
And if you feel that the human race that you are or would like to, create a character of isn't well represented, there's tons of space in Peor, where humans are from, that isn't defined at all. There's no countries on the map right now in the big section.
Mm-hmm.
Create it. Work with us.
Also, if you like Yeti culture or Vibrani culture, but do not want to be a Yeti or Vibrani, there's also the option that, you were a abandoned baby adopted by Vibrani and cared for. That's super common in literature. Like, crazy super common. So, if you want a character like that, you can have a character like that.
Oh, we did want to mention something special about the Vibrani and human relationship, especially in Antiford.
Yes. So, as the human culture and Vibrani culture are very different, and because Vibrani do not like using technology, there's a bit of a conflict. To say the least.
There are some Vibrani that like using technology, like the Purple Tribe.
Yeah.
But the tribe that lives in Antiford is the Red Tribe, and there is also the Nakalo. The Nakalo are technically not Vibrani, even though they look very similar. They're just very pale. They don't mind using technology. The Red Tribe, they're the most orthodox of the tribes. They abstain from technology
completely.
But the idea is that there is anti-Vibrani racism.
Yes.
They are called demons because of an old mythology that was applied to them when humans found them. It's if you want to have this kind of struggle, this race struggle, in your character, Vibrani is a nice character to
Yes.
play as if you want to play that up in your stories.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, very cool. Very
Sexual
cool.
activism.
So, so really, the last thing is just probably the most important thing is it doesn't have to be in the encyclopedia.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't contradict the encyclopedia, whatever, go wild, go crazy, and work with us. If there's something that just doesn't work with you, we'll either help you find something that works, or we'll change something in the encyclopedia if we weren't too solid on that anyway. You know, if it wasn't important, we're not going to hold somebody back.
Many things in the encyclopedia we've put there for a base for others to work off of, but it's just kind of a, oh, well, we said this because it worked at the time.
Right. So the encyclopedia is a living document. We have encyclopedia days where we
Like
get
a
together.
normal, like a real encyclopedia, where encyclopedias are updated every now and again for new information.
Yeah, I mean, we make it a point to get together to talk about what should be in the encyclopedia. Because this is the giant Ouija board of storytelling.
Mm-hmm. So, read the encyclopedia and contact us. Get in touch with us, and we can work with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for you.
No, they work for us.
What?
Oh, right. No. Yeah, no. Yeah.
So I guess I don't think we have anything else to say other than just happy storytelling.
Have fun!